We appreciate everyone joining in to today's Community Development Roundtable question and answer webinar. My name is Simeon Henderson, and I'm honored to serve as the program manager consultant for this initiative. And today we're going to just briefly give you an overview of today's agenda. So today we're going to provide you an overview for our program. We're going to share the opportunity and the structure of this program. You're going to learn more about the pre-development fund and the structure of that. We're going to walk you through the candidate selection process, and at the end, we'll answer any questions. Just a real quick few housekeeping rules. This is a live recording. We'll use this content for future purposes to share on different social media platforms. But throughout today's presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free as we're speaking to add those into the chat. Once we complete today's presentation, we'll make sure that we address any questions or thoughts that any of our participants today have, and we'll make sure that those answers are answered before today's session is over. So I'd like everyone to do a really quick check-in. If you can please enter your name, your organization, and one word about how you feel. If you can enter that information in the chat, that'd be awesome. Our goal is to be able to not only learn more about you all as well, to keep you on our mailers list and share updates related to the Community Development Roundtable, as well as Innovan neighborhood, different initiatives. Give everyone about a minute to enter that. See many familiar faces from last night. Thank you all that had the opportunity to participate in last night's launch event that was held at Gillies Dallas. So appreciate your support, and thank you all for joining today as well. About another 30 seconds for everyone to enter their information. Keep in mind, like I reiterate, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat throughout our conversation, and we'll make sure that we answer those at the end. Right, well, I am extremely excited about today's webinar. And now it's my honor to introduce the managing partner of Innovan Neighborhoods and the visionary for the Community Development Roundtable, Ms. Maggie Parker.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining today, and Simeon for kicking us off. If you have not seen by now, there's a lot of excitement, at least starting for me, for you all to be here and to really kick off this initiative. And so today is to answer all of your questions. There are a lot of components that are providing resources for developers through this roundtable. And so we want to make sure that everyone's clear, that we're coming alongside you through the application process. And if we don't answer it today, we can answer it, in the coming days, so that everyone's equipped with what they need to in order to apply and move this work forward. So as Simeon mentioned, I'm Maggie Parker, managing partner of Innovan Neighborhoods. And so we are a real estate development and consulting firm focused on community-oriented projects, doing projects in both Dallas and Fort Worth. From this work, we are really looking at not just a vision of doing real estate development, but also how do we support the overall community development ecosystem, and ensuring specifically that there are more developers of color that are having a larger impact in really revitalizing neighborhoods. So when we look at the Community Developers Roundtable, let me just start with who our partners are, right? Because these are pretty crucial to move this work forward. I've already introduced myself as well as Simeon. We have VCL of Texas. Rosa Rios Valdez, their CEO and president, unfortunately could not be here today, but they have been an amazing partner in this work. They will serve as the fund manager as well as a fiscal sponsor for this initiative. And so they bring over 30 years of experience as a CDFI as well as a CDC organization. Additionally, we have a long list of sponsors and partners who are engaged in this work. And so our lead sponsor is JP Morgan Chase, but as there are several sponsors, some who are also on the call. Thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate your excitement and your willingness to join us in this work. Additionally, we have several partners. And so these are folks who are lending their time, services, connections to really support a lot of the roundtables that are a lot of the roundtable and the developers that are engaged in this work. So for anyone that's applying, see these as like your close-knit crew, I would say, and moving your deals forward, and people who have literally signed up to support your work and move your work forward. So let's get into the opportunity and what is actually the roundtable. And so really the roundtable is in this context of saying, how do we build capacity for existing community-oriented developers, specifically people of color, but then positioning them to provide innovative solutions. And so when we talk about innovative solutions, we're thinking, how do we look at addressing housing affordability? How do we address more community amenities, specifically commercial real estate opportunities in historically distressed areas, and then support those developers in that work? So typically that's, and what we're looking for is for existing, so people who are already doing projects, nonprofit and for-profit developers. These are developers that again are focused on community-oriented projects. We will define what that is here in a second. And so with the roundtable, we're establishing this collective networking group, right? So we will meet on a monthly basis. We will have, different sessions and networking events that ensures that folks are really connecting and bringing their own expertise to not just your own projects, but to other people's projects and to the larger group of partners that we have. So that looks like really us offering more of a longer term and developer-led structure with ongoing feedback and really accountability. So let me explain what that is. If you are kind of been in this community development space for a while, you know some of the opportunities that are out there, and hopefully you've already taken part. So those are things like real estate councils, Trek Boot Camp, their Real Estate 101, great opportunities to kind of get a baseline. Some of you are probably also aware of community impact partners and their equitable development initiative. Again, really great partners, and hopefully you're taking advantage of those opportunities. The point of this is to say, once you've done those opportunities, what's next? How are you continuing to keep a cohort around you, people around you that want to do this work, but actually as you're in the trenches of doing that project, what support do you need and how can we help you through that process? So just think of it as, it's an ongoing training, ongoing opportunity to connect, but also we are building this and coming up with what the next steps are, what the sessions are all about based on the needs of the people in the group. Okay, so the profile of our participants is that at minimum, our participants will have a minimum of 2 years of real estate experience. And what's super important is that you have completed one project or you have demonstrated a pipeline of existing assets, right? So when I say that you completed one project, our minimum baseline is that you have funding secured for at least one project. And that means that it's in the pipeline to construction. But you've been doing this for years, but we all know how long deals take. So again, we're trying to make sure that you already have that level of experience, because a lot of the other programs kind of help you get ramped up to that. And so we're not trying to duplicate, we're trying to make sure that once you finish those other programs, what's next for you? When we talk about a community impact, these are kind of the metrics that we're looking at when we're saying the product types that people are working on. Specifically, we're saying single family housing, up to 120% of AMI, multifamily housing for renters up to 80% of AMI, and then commercial real estate that's located in underserved or distressed areas. From there, when we think about what our sessions will look like, so we're typically going to do Thursdays from 8:30 to 1 p.m. So when you think about it, these are folks that these development projects are most likely your full-time job because you have to be available on those Thursday mornings. But during those sessions, we will have guest speakers and advisors on topics that have been identified by the developer group. We will really have this opportunity for deal feedback during those sessions. So we will actually rotate where everyone will share a component of the deals that they're working on, and will ask the group for feedback. And whether that's the group is, has some insight, or we can help to make referrals. But again, we're being very open about where we are with projects and helping people trying to progress that work. And then lastly, we'll spend some time just like assessing the market. What are people seeing? How's pricing adjusting? Who are some folks that people need to talk to or connect with? And so again, these are kind of the core components of each session. But again, they will flex with what the needs are in the description, or what the needs are that has been described, let me say, from the developers that are in the roundtable. So from there, we also have funding, right? And so we've been able to raise $1.3 million for this initiative to date. The majority of that funding is actually going to this dedicated pre-development fund. And so what is key in this work is that really we're only successful when we are increasing the pipeline of affordable housing and commercial real estate projects. And we're doing that from this funding that's available, that's only available to this select group. So what that means is that in our selection process, which Simeon will discuss, we're trying to make sure these dollars go out. So when we talk about what the pre-development funds can go towards, it includes things like land acquisition, permitting, feasibility studies, whether that's your geotech or your environmental, things like that. And we will have extremely flexible terms that I think are below market for pre-development capital, because those who are sourcing funds, that's usually the hardest money to get. But because of our generous sponsors and partners, we will actually be able to forgive a percentage of that funding. And that ideally is going to be additional equity into your project and or your balance sheet of your organization. So benefits and outcomes. So again, and this is just like to reiterate, we really see this as a exclusive network of experienced community-oriented developers. And each word is key here, right? So when we talk about exclusive, love that everybody wants to do community development, and we'll be honest and say, we want to specifically target people who are already doing the work and come alongside them, as there are other programs that are helping people kind of get to the next stage. When we talk about experience, that's the same thing. Community oriented, I'm a firm believer that when you're not just doing market rate projects, but when you're trying to do a community kind of impact project, the funders are different, how you relate to different partners are very, very different. And so there's a different strategy in how you do a development deal, how you think about your business when you're trying to have community impact. And so these are some core components of the work. I guess I talked about this too soon because I got excited, but here are a little bit, this is what I mentioned previously about the pre-development fund. What I did not speak on before was our typical loan amount will be $25,000 to $100,000 with a term of about 18 months and options for renewal. What is going to be key in this is that, and that's clear, is so BCL is actually our fiscal sponsor, but also is the fund manager. And so all loans have to be approved by BCL. So you are going through a traditional underwriting process, but in knowing that, there's some give and take through the fundraising, that we're having lower interest rate, there's less fees. Again, we have that forgivable note component as well. So these are things where, we're being very flexible, but someone does have to go through the traditional underwriting process with BCL and that relationship that we have with them. Okay, additional benefits beyond just the pre-development fund that's dedicated to these developers. We have our staff development resource pool. So think of it as basically a stipend for your staff to get training. We will actually match up to $1,500 per staff member to increase their capacity. So these can be things like training for asset management, training for someone to go learn pro formas, whatever you think is going to help your organization to grow, we want to support you in doing that. Secondly, we have access to professional coaching and mentoring. We will cover some of the initial costs, and that can be coaching for whatever you think you need. That could be leadership development, thinking about organizational strategy. It can think about how you grow your pipeline of deals. And so we have a list of coaches that are ready and willing to come alongside you, and we're partnering with them as well. Thirdly, we have funding for feasibility studies. And so these feasibility studies are not project-based. These are actually, think more like if you're trying to have a larger impact. So that could be like you want to make a big change in how you think about your organizational structure, but you need someone to kind of take a look at XYZ. Or you may have a target market or neighborhood that you want to do research on. And so you want to understand what's the feasibility of developing in that area. We have funding for that as well. And so these are things where, you know, everyone will have to, we have, I guess, the fund has the lending criteria, but all of these other benefits essentially do have the criteria as well, that for those that are selected, we will walk through that process with them. But it's really so that we can assess the impact and the need, especially given the generous funding from our partners. So when we look at the overall impact of the roundtable, there's some key things I just want to highlight here. One is that, you know, we're trying to get more units and more square footage of commercial real estate projects, right? And if we're not doing that, this is not successful. And so that's when we're doing our selection, when we're looking at who we're partnering with, it's about how do we increase the pipeline? The next thing is saying, how do we strengthen the ecosystem of community development here in Dallas? You all know that, you know, when we talk about there's 20,000 units that need to be built for affordable housing, there are more units needed than people who are positioned to actually do the work. And so we need to build that capacity in the ecosystem, and that's a part of the roundtable's goal. I think you continue to hear about things like the City of Dallas's $100 million Opportunity Housing Fund. So, you know, how are we positioning and aligning those relationships for people to get capital from that funding as well? That's a key kind of impact goal. But then also just expand those market network, expand the markets and the network, among those real estate developers. And so in addition to the sessions, we will also have 2 networking events each year. And that is actually with that select group of partners that you saw early on. So we will have kind of, I'd say, I guess, more close-knit networking opportunities with those partners, so that as they're doing other projects, as you're doing projects, there's more of a one-on-one relationship there as well. And so with that, I'm actually going to pass it over to Simeon, and he's going to take over the rest of the conversation.
All right, thank you, Maggie. As Maggie shared, can you go to the next slide, please? And as she shared, just our sessions and events. So we're anticipating 8 sessions. Very first session is going to start on Thursday, November 3rd. And we'll have sessions the very first Thursday of every month from 8:30 to 1 p.m. And we'll go for the duration until June. And I'm going to share my screen here to navigate you all through our website. So for those that's interested in applying, we'll be able to assist you with that starting now. I hope everyone can see my screen here. So this is our, can you see my screen? Yes?
We can now, yep.
All right, thank you all. So here's our website. You will be able to receive that in the chat as well. We'll make sure that each link will be entered in the chat, and you'll be able to go there directly. But here's our website. You'll be able to learn more about the Community Development Roundtable. We'll make sure that also the information in the PowerPoint is shared with you all as well. For those that are interested in applying, if you go to our toolbar, you'll see the application process. And this is a 3-step process. The very first eligible criteria is you, candidate, meeting the basic criteria, which Maggie already briefly highlighted. And that basic criteria is having that 2 years of real estate experience. We want to make sure that we're having a network of established developers. And our goal is to make sure that you have at the minimum of 1 project, as well as 2 references. One of the references we will request is that you have a previous lender or some funding source to speak to your experience as a developer. And then also 1 additional professional reference for yourself. Our goal is to make sure that you have the minimum of these particular real estate experiences, whether it's single family housing, multifamily housing, or commercial real estate development in distressed areas. So once you meet this basic criteria, step 1, in order to go to step 2, within the first week of your application, which closes on September 23rd, next Friday, we will request some financials related to your previous experience. So the minimum that we're requesting is a 2-year financial statement. We're also looking to learn more about your organization. So we're looking for your organizational leadership structure, as well as opportunity for you to highlight past projects. The purpose of us requesting finances, as Maggie already alluded to, we have this pre-development fund. We want to make sure that our participants not only can connect to our already banking partners that are sponsoring and advocating for this initiative, but you also have access to the pre-development fund. Our goal is to make sure that meet the basic underwriting criteria for our partners. Any information that you share with us will definitely be confidential. You will have written feedback from our banking partners to just highlight what their observation was of your finances. We'll make sure that you will be able to get information back. Anything you'd like to share on this, Maggie? Any additional?
Yeah, I just want to add that, you know, I'm sure some of you may be like, financials, like really, but I think that, as Simeon stated, we are really trying to get this fund out because, as you all know, that's not a ton of money for all the projects that need to happen. And so when we can show that we're deploying funds into really good projects and having impact, then I do firmly believe that there's more funding that can be available and more partners that want to come on board. Additionally, I would say, see this as an opportunity to get feedback. So as Simeon said, we're getting our lender partners are actually doing kind of a soft underwriting of the financials and doing an overview for the selection committee that Simeon will discuss here. And so you'll be able to get that written feedback to see, like, how does a banker think around my financials? What questions would they be asking? What are things that I can be strengthening? At the same time, like, everyone's financials are not going to be squeaky clean. So we're also going to be looking for if there's a pathway for you to get to financing, right? Like if there's 1, 2, 3 things you can do that positions you for financing, then that's something that we will also consider. And I would encourage you, like if there are nuances that you want the lenders to review or comment on, you may include a couple bullet points when you submit those financial statements as well. And so those are my comments. I'll pass it back to Simeon.
Absolutely, thank you. And our final and last step is once you meet the first and second step, you'll have an opportunity to be interviewed with our partners. It'll be an in-person or options are available as well. This is an opportunity for you to connect with the partners that you'll be fellowshipping throughout this program with. So once you meet those first 2, 3 steps, you're involved in this awesome initiative. So just some key dates for everyone to see. As you saw yesterday, we had our launch event. Today, we're currently doing our Q&A. Our applications did open on September 2nd. It's going to next Friday, the 23rd. We're looking to launch our initiative on November 3rd. So we're really excited about this opportunity for you all to join us today. And I'm going to pause and we're going to start our Q&A. I know we have a lot of great questions in the chat box, and this is an opportunity for us to start addressing those.
Thank you, Simeon. So far I've seen 2 questions. I have from Marcus Brummer. He asks, will the recording or at least the Q&A portion be made available to the participants afterwards?
Yes, you will be able to find this on LinkedIn as well as social media. There'll be an upload on YouTube. And I believe we'll be able to send this to everyone that registered. We'll be able to send this to your email directly as well.
Awesome. And then I have two questions from Pharrell Fellows. One is, will there be a grant component? And then the second is, will the underwriting be project or property specific or general for various projects?
Farrell, those are great questions. So there's a couple different grant components. So one, there's no cost to be in the program. So all of that is covered. That's a part of this grant component. The loan, so the pre-development loan, a percentage will, there's a possibility for the percentage to be forgiven if certain metrics are met. So that's a grant component. And then all of the other benefits, when we talked about the stipend for your staff, stipend for feasibility study, for mentoring and coaching, all of those are grant components because it's free of charge. So those are the ways that we're, I guess, providing free opportunities, I would say. And then can you repeat the second question?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should have lumped them together. The second one is, will the underwriting be project or property specific or general for various projects?
So right now it'll be project specific. As we look at iterating the fund, there's I'd say more of a relationship with BCL and these developers, then we will look at more organizational funding so that it can move a little bit quicker and be nuanced in whatever projects that you have going on. But right now in this stage, it'll be project specific and not organizational level underwriting or organization specific funding, let me say.
Okay, thank you. From Mark Henderson, he asked, will the references need to provide a letter or just contact information?
Yeah, we're anticipating if you can share their contact information as you apply. We'd like to just have a conversation with them, but also feel free if they want to write a letter on your behalf. We welcome that as well.
And then the last question I see is from DeMont Campbell. What's the minimum size of the team for someone's does someone's company need to be? What's the minimum size of a company's team?
There isn't a minimum size. DeMont, it's me, right? You know, I have partners, but it doesn't need to be a 5-person team, you know? So when we talk about the staff capacity grants, those are for people who have a team and they want to support, you know, we want to support their growth. But it could just be you doing the work. So there's no minimum size there.
And that is all I see in the chat. I am going to share the email address that's on this screen for any additional questions. But that's all I see right now.
Is there any additional questions anyone have? You'd like to address now?
Okay, well, if not, the email contact information is on the screen as well as in the chat. Would love for you all to just, you know, email us. If you have any other questions, we're happy to just engage with you, make sure that there's clarity. And, you know, there's just a lot of excitement and some great partners that are aligned with this, and we want to support everybody to take advantage of this opportunity for sure. So September 23rd is the deadline. We would love to hear from you by then, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you all. Feel free to email me if you have any follow-up questions, as well as any questions that you'll like to learn any more about the initiative. Thank you all, and have a blessed day.
Thanks, everybody.